You may wonder why we use the term Juneteenth. The reason why Juneteenth was coined has to do with June 19th of 1865. The United States had just been engulfed with an all-encompassing civil war. Juneteenth was the term coined for that day and is signed this way. June 19th was an opportunity to look back in history and to really commemorate the fact that 19 million Black people who had been enslaved were now free. In the South, slave owners ignored this emancipation to end slavery. That was granted in January of 1863. It wasn't until Robert E. Lee, who was from the Confederate Army, surrendered. And that was in April of 1865. Then a Union general by the name of Gordon Granger engaged in an act of heroism and brought that message of freedom to Galveston, Texas. And that was the final bastion of slavery, where people were then told that slavery was over and that they were now free. They had a personal right to property. In the past, they were the property of their slave owners, their masters. Now, with this Emancipation Proclamation, they were freed from slavery, but that came at a price. And that price was the fact that now that they were no longer slaves, they were paid by the master rather than just working for the master. You may be wondering why this is a critical moment in time. It's something that happened 150 years ago. Juneteenth is a day of celebration, a day to celebrate our liberty, to celebrate the importance of the opportunities that we've been given, to engage in a celebration where people around America, African Americans, on June 19th think about the African community and we look back on our heritage, on our struggles, and our advancements. Now, as to Black Lives Matter. Here in DC on May 31st, my daughter and I decided that we would join 10,000 people gathering in DC to engage in protest against police brutality and racism and the murder of George Floyd. At this protest, I stood on the front lines, very passionate in being able to raise a voice for somebody who was dead, to break this vow of silence, to think back to the campus and how often I was triggered on a daily basis by white supremacy and by white supremacist symbols, and how disgusting it was to see this generational white power being passed on. I saw at this Black Lives protest millions of protests erupting around the world, people fighting for change, people saying no peace, no justice, and inspired me to really roll up my sleeves and to issue a wake-up call to our community.